It is a privilege to introduce Lorraine Kinsman. With over 3 decades of experience in the educational sector in Calgary, Lorraine is a true pillar of the Calgary educational community. She served for nearly 18 years as a principal with the Calgary Board of Education, and her education includes a master's degree in both elementary reading and a separate master's degree in leadership. Lorraine has seen the evolution of education in Calgary from the front lines, and today she's sharing how her deep expertise in traditional systems has led her to now champion the learner-driven model alternative that Acton Central offers to children and families in Calgary. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Lorraine, you spent nearly 18 years as a principal within the CBE. After seeing thousands of students go through the traditional system, what was it about the Acton Academy model that inspired you to reimagine how we teach children?
Well, that's a really good question. I actually was a champion of learner-focused systems in the public system as well, and I think there's lots of flexibility there. The problem is with all of the overcrowding and issues that are going on, teachers and schools don't have that flexibility. So what I loved about Acton was it was an opportunity for children to come at learning from a child-centered perspective. And from my, not just experience as a teacher, but as a parent, and lots of time with kids, I really believe anything we do with children needs to be about the children, not about what we think. So for me, Acton offers opportunities for children to be curious, experience things, and really get involved in what they're doing instead of just listening and trying to go at it from a very surface kind of level.
Great, and when you're talking about the learner-driven approach and how it changes the way a child sees themselves as potentially a reader, given your expertise, or a communicator, how does that empower them differently than maybe a traditional model might?
I think anytime you can take your learning from where the children are, you're going to be successful. So, I have a 4-year-old granddaughter. If you said to her, I'd like you to sit down and make this word with these letters, she'd say no. Mm-hmm. But if I just left the letters out on the table with other things that are going on, she would naturally gravitate to that at some point. Mm-hmm. She is a reader herself in her own way. She's not reading all the words yet, but she can identify some. She knows beginning sounds. We've never actually taught that to her. She's learned that through experience, through asking what the letters are, through learning that there is an alphabet. Mm-hmm. I think anytime you give children an opportunity to engage in an activity, they're learning all the time. Their little brains are sponges. Mm-hmm. They're building neurons, every second of their lives. If we try to control that, then we're teaching them that natural curiosity isn't something they should be engaging in. They wait for direction to become a learner. And from my perspective, the more opportunities we can ask them to lead the learning, the more likely they are to want to continue that learning. So I think, especially with things like reading, my 5-week-old granddaughter gets read to every day because that's what they need.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. And what reassurances can you give parents who are worried that their child might fall behind in a non-traditional environment?
So my first question would be, fall behind in what way? Like, who's setting the standard for fall behind? A curious brain that's allowed to engage, that is encouraged, that has opportunities to stretch the thinking beyond the norm. Those kids are not going to say, well, I'm done with learning today. Learning there's a big difference between education and schools. And schools are the places we go because it's convenient for us from a social perspective to learn. That does not mean that we all sit in rows and learn necessarily. Some kids learn really well that way. Most of them don't, to be honest. We have to vary the teaching within the classroom. We have to vary the teaching and opportunities for learning in all learning spaces. Nobody learns everything exactly the same way or at the same time. We don't have best before dates. We just come with curiosity and intelligence, and I think it's really important to give those opportunities to kids that they engage in learning as it naturally happens for them. That doesn't mean we can't offer them topics. Of course we can. We can say, do you want to learn to skate? We can say, do you want to learn to play chess? But if we leave the materials there and leave those opportunities open to them to engage in, they're much more likely to continue it. That if we say at 2 o'clock we're going to do science. Mm-hmm. Science occurs all day long. Mm-hmm. Depends on how you approach it with them. And what I love about Acton and what I love about learner-based educational opportunities is that you have the opportunity to get an education without somebody saying this is the time and the place to learn. You get to learn as the curiosity grows and develops.
That's right, and it's more about setting the environment up
Yeah.
to make it appealing and interesting to learners.
That's right.
For them to participate in as they choose versus telling them and being prescriptive of what to do and when.
So I'll use Capri again as an example. So she goes to preschool, and last year she was in 3-year-old preschool, and every day they would do, the month of today's, April or March or whatever. March was the first time that she actually realized it was the same thing over and over again. So for about 5 months, she always said, oh, today is March whatever, and she would make things up. I call that rehearsing and practicing, right? What I hadn't thought about was, how else could we reinforce that? And then someone sent me a calendar, and I put it on the wall. Now we change the calendar every month. She's seeing physically that she knows this is February. We just turned the calendar. The picture on the calendar is of skating. She said February is winter. So she's starting to make those connections. She's never had a lesson on this is winter or spring or summer. They mentioned the day of the year or the month of the year. And so they learn those things experientially. And, part of my concern with our move to everything digital is we didn't have a wall calendar. We haven't had one for years because we don't have grandchildren and children at home anymore. But that's a beautiful teaching device for kids to see just as part of your normal existence. That's what learning is. That education happens in the school, but being educated yourself with curiosity and with repetition and understanding how life happens because your brain makes connections and patterns. And for little guys, they make millions of neural connections every single day. Sometimes it takes 50 or 80 neural connections to build a pattern for them. Sometimes it takes 1,000. We don't know. So you never know with the child how many that's going to take. We have to find ways to give them opportunities to experience that.
Thank you.
That was a long-winded, sorry.
That's fantastic. Oh, that was great.